the struggle that a lot of the Black communities and Hispanic communities is really based on the lack of resources, the lack of respect, the lack of abilities to get jobs. That's really what the difference is access to the ability to succeed. And one of the things that we are trying to do with the Sports Shed through sports is create access that is more similar to what is out in the white suburban areas. We have a long way to go, but
Welcome to the Legacy Project. My name is Jim Koppel, president of the Servant Ford Foundation. We're an organization committed to leadership development with a specific focus on service. This podcast and its related activities are about sharing the legacy we have inherited and discussing the legacy we still want to create. Legacy is more than cars, houses, boats, and material possessions that we want to leave to the next generation. Rather, legacy is about core values and beliefs that we inherited from a previous generation. They are the values that shaped us and defined us. Legacy is also about the values we develop or create that can be passed on or shared with the next generation. We will interview people from various backgrounds and walks of life. Some are famous, some, well, maybe not so famous, and others are simply our neighbors, our friends, people who live ordinary lives doing extraordinary things. Become part of this project by being intentional about legacy, more than just memories, but principles that have guided our lives and shaped our decisions. What is the legacy you choose to create? That's what we want to discover. Well, we're excited today to be talking to Tina Sernett, who is the founder of the Sports Shed in Chicago area, and is doing some amazing work with young people and being a bridge between the community and a lot of young people who are at risk. And so it's a pleasure to be talking with you, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me and being interested in what we do.
I appreciate you being a part of the Legacy Project. So the Legacy Project really talks and explores the influences in the lives of people who are making change in their communities. It's everyday people who get up in the morning and do the work of community organizing and change, and you certainly are one of those. So, Tina, let me start off with a 50,000-foot question. Who are some of the most influential people in your life as you inherited a legacy from family, friends, coaches, and other people? But who are some of those people?
So probably a common answer that a lot of people give you might be, but I would have to say my parents. I was raised as Southern Baptist, and we went to church twice on Sunday and Wednesday nights, and so I learned a lot just from going to church, really just about the love of God and how much it means for us to love others. And my parents modeled that to me, for me, just with a lot of things that we did as a family and things that we did through our church. One of the things, or a couple things that stick out in my mind are, we used to visit this one woman who was 80 something at the time. And, I remember my mom, I remember just being like bored silly when we would go there, but my mom would just talk about how important it is, to be there for other people in times when, they can't do things for themselves or that sort of thing. So, those things, even though, like I said, I was bored silly while I was there, and I was like, what is this? What's the purpose of this? It's one of the things that stuck with me. Another thing is we used to work in what was called the clothes closet at our church. So people would bring, clothes to donate, and then my mom would bring us, and we'd have to sit there and sort through everything and find the things that were still good and throw away the things that weren't. And I find that, that's a lot of what we do with the sports equipment that we collect. So, I feel like just having the influence of my parents and just, the influence of my relationship with God and learning how important it is to love others and to love others, more than myself, really.
So you grew up in a faith-filled home. To what extent does faith continue to have an influence in your life?
I would say it's there every day. What I do with the sports shed and the nonprofit that I started a few years ago, it requires faith every single day, and it's also obviously motivated by compassion and love for others who might not have as much as I have, or haven't been as privileged as I've been, to this point in my life.
So tell me a little bit about Sports Shed. What it is, and then how did it get started? What motivated you to do this? Because it's kind of a unique ministry and service to your community.
Yeah. So I grew up playing sports. I love sports. I feel like I learned a lot in my life through playing sports. I gained a lot of confidence and just learned how to be disciplined, how to practice over and over to get good at something. Obviously, the whole being on a team type of thing, was a benefit too. And when I got married and had kids, they started to play sports, and we were living in the affluent suburbs of Chicago. And I noticed how everyone in the community that I lived in, and even us too, we were just out there buying the latest, greatest, expensive sports equipment for our kids so that they could try whatever sport they wanted to try, or if we thought they were going to be good at something, we would get them the next best, latest, greatest $300 bat and baseball mitt and things like that. And a lot of the equipment that we were buying or getting for our kids, it ended up just in our garages because they either outgrew it or we replaced it, long before its life was over. And so to me, I just started thinking about what was in our garage. And then, if you multiply that by the thousands of people who are doing the same thing, what if we put all this valuable, high quality equipment together, got it out of all of our garages, put it together. There's got to be kids not too far from here who really, maybe don't have the access to play sports or the finances to, have the equipment that we have. So that's really, what motivated it. And then I just, started searching for the need, really. And I could go on and on about that.
Oh, we're talking to Tina Sernett, one of the founders of Sports Shed in Chicago, an amazing program providing sports equipment for young people. So how old is Sports Shed? How long has it been around?
Yeah, so it got started in 2009. And so we've been supplying quality sports gear for kids, mainly on the south and west side of Chicago, ever since then.
And yeah, who are your partners? How does this happen? How have you taken it to scale to be able to reach to as many kids as you're reaching?
So our partners on the recipient side, what we found to be the most efficient way to get equipment into the most amount of kids' hands is we work with schools and sports programs and after-school programs and mainly nonprofits, things like that actually provide sports programs. And we come alongside them. We meet with them, find out what their challenges are, what their lack of funding, what they would like to be able to do sports wise with the kids, or if they would, if they're not able to, like for instance, a high school may have a varsity football team, but they don't have the resources or the equipment they need to have those younger programs, like the JV or younger programs, so that once the kids get to that varsity level. So basically, we work with these schools to supply the needs to the kids that they're serving.
I guess you have business or corporate partners that help contribute or raise resources for you to acquire this equipment, or is it all donated?
Some of it is donated, and we've worked with a lot of corporations over the years. One of our biggest supporters is Rust-Oleum. The CEO, who was the CEO of Rust-Oleum a few years ago, he joined our board, and they have just done a whole lot in terms of sponsoring programs to provide brand new football helmets, and I mean, that's just an example. So they're probably one of our biggest supporters in terms of corporations. And then we've, been able to get grant funding from local granting organizations too. And then to be honest, a lot of our support comes from individuals who just have a passion for what we do and have supported us for many, many years and continue to come to our events and support us on a regular basis financially.
So, as you've created Sports Shed and you continue to see its work in the community, what are some lessons you've learned out of this experience that you find really important or valuable to you and who you are as a person?
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through starting the organization and seeking out and searching for the needs of others is the disparity. I really had no idea how much need there really is in the areas of Chicago, the inner city. People talk about the South Side, the West Side, and if you don't go there and see the situation or meet people who are living there, it's hard to have a full understanding of the depth of the needs, the reason for the needs, the reason for the disparity, how much of a difference there is between the way the challenges in their lives. I just had no idea how much need there was, and just learning that and getting to know the people who live in these areas, who are trying to do things with very little resources. It's made me want to do, more than I ever imagined, to help level the playing field and to bridge the gap, really.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious in terms of some of the encounters that you've had with people who live and work in these communities who are traumatized by the violence, traumatized by the disparities that exist in resources, whether it's in health, education, whatever. What have those individual encounters, how have they affected you?
That's another thing I think I was surprised by, and I continue to enjoy. That's probably my favorite part of doing this is I've met literally hundreds of just really awesome people. They would give anyone the shirt off of their own back, and they're paying money out of their own pockets to try to start sports programs for kids who need an outlet, who need to stay off the streets instead of getting into gangs. And there are just so many people who are doing everything they possibly can to change their communities and to turn things around. Some of these people are like, I consider them my best friends. And I didn't really expect that or think of that when I started the organization. It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to be this person who's, runs an organization and we supply stuff, and I didn't really know the benefit that I would get from the relationships with the people that we serve. And it's awesome. Very fulfilling.
Yeah, can you speak to the differences, if there are any, between what motivates you to do what you're doing and all these people that you're working with in these neighborhood, from your perspective, is the motivation different? Um, is the influence of legacy, if you will, in terms of what has shaped and defined them, is it very different from yours?
That's a good question. I'm thinking about the answer in so many different ways, depths of the answer to that question. I mean, I think all of us as humans are motivated by wanting to succeed and do well in life and see our kids, succeed and be the best people that they can be. And I think what really the only thing that's different is where I've come from. I feel like I had resources and blessings and white skin
Yeah.
that some of these people didn't have. Really the struggle that a lot of the Black communities and Hispanic communities, their struggle is really based on the lack of resources, the lack of respect, the lack of abilities to get jobs, things like that. So I really don't. When you say what's the difference, it's like that's really what the difference is
Access.
access. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Access to the ability to succeed. I feel like I could go
Yeah.
on and on about that too, but
Right.
that's I just really hope, and one of the things that we are trying to do with the sports shed through sports is create access that is more similar to what is out in the white suburban areas.
Sure.
We have a long way to go, but
In the history of Sports Shed, how many kids have you served? Do you know? Approximately?
yeah, it's probably about 60 or 70,000 now. We we keep track, based on every time we deliver sports equipment or work with a program. We count how many kids are being served within that program at that time. So it's probably a lot more than that, just based on reality, because a lot of the equipment that we provide, it gets used over and over for a few years to come by kids who are coming into the program that we don't even know about. So it's probably an underestimated amount, but it's thousands, tens of thousands.
Speak to this for a second. I'm going to give you a comparison. We're involved in a project, Servant Forge, in Kenya, in the Dandora dump, which is the second largest trash dump in the world. Kids live in those dumps, families live in those dumps, they're trash pickers. The health situation is really bad. On a site visit there a couple of years ago, we discovered that one of the employees with our partner organization was the goalie for the national soccer or football team in Kenya. And she was organizing youth soccer or football, as they call it in Kenya, games, and discovered through also another partner that the teams that she organized out of these dumps were beating all of the private schools. They were competing. They were just phenomenal, but they were barefoot. They didn't have uniforms, etc. We wound up buying them uniforms for three of their teams. And the difference in the pride, the self esteem, the identity, all of those things were just increased exponentially. Is that what you see in the work that you do?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because it's if you it's interesting that you said that these kids are very good at the sport that they're playing.
Yep.
And I mean, they probably have a mental and physical toughness that can't be beat.
Yeah.
But you if you take that and then you add in the quality of like you said, uniforms or equipment that really bring value and help them feel valued, they see what's available out in the world to other people. They see what professional teams have and college teams have, and you know, if they get to experience some of those same situations or same things just by, like you said, the fact of having uniforms that makes them feel like they're part of a team, or team bags that they can carry their stuff in, that it's just creating value is
Yeah.
is really, and creating value within themselves. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people who have donated stuff to us over the years, we'll get balls that don't hold air, and things that are falling apart, and people will say to me sometimes, well, if they don't have anything, well, won't they be happy with this, and I'm like, no. if
Yeah.
you if you give someone if you give someone something that is not of value, then they feel like they're not of value.
Mhm.
If you give quality items that have value, that makes that person feel valued,
Yeah.
and
No, that's
they have a chance at success.
yeah, that's a powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this: you have children, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Two daughters,
Two daughters.
24 and 26. They're grown. They have apartments. They pay their own bills. Kind of nice.
Kind of nice. So, in terms of who you are as a person and what you've become over time, what is the legacy you want to leave your children?
I guess it would be similar to the legacy I feel like my parents have left me. I would like them to see what I've modeled in my own life. That's a tough one. I don't know how to answer it really, but um, I just hope that they learn to love others, and to give, and that they'll find true happiness through those things, instead of just building up themselves and trying to make their own dreams come true, that sort of thing.
Well, let me ask the question a little differently. What do
Okay.
you see in them? What do you see in them
Hmm. Hmm.
today
Hmm.
that reflects some of those values that you talk about?
So yeah, some of the things that I see in them, I see they're very hardworking. They have a lot of love in their hearts for others. My older daughter, she actually went to Africa to live for a year after she graduated from college, and she just really wanted to kind of see what people live like over there, and see if she could meet some needs in that area. So yeah, I love to see the sense of adventure that both of them have. Um, the sense of adventure to kind of like get out of their own comfort zone, which I guess that's a thing I really am happy to pass on to them, is that sense of adventure and ability to jump out of your comfort zone, and and see the world outside of your own, um, and then what you can do um, to help the world that needs it.
Yeah. Getting at towards one of my final questions, Tina. Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks the second habit is living with the end in mind. And he has you go through this exercise of if people were to attend your funeral today, what would they say about you? And then if people were to attend your funeral 10 years from now, what would you like them to say about you?
Hmm.
And I want you to think for a few moments. I mean, I'm struck. I have to tell you, I'm struck recently. I mean, I've had two colleagues die recently,
Hmm.
and I just finished a chapter of a book on a biography that's being
Hmm.
written on one of them, and trying to capture the influence and the contribution this individual's had. And I have to also say that the shooting in Boulder, Colorado,
Yeah.
my stepson was in that same store about 15 minutes before that happened.
Oh, wow.
He's working on his doctorate or he's just finished his doctorate at the University of Colorado. But as I've been listening to the stories of the 10 people who were killed and
Hmm.
what people are saying, what would you like people to say about you when it's all over?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that the two things that come to mind is, you know, that I hope they say that she made every day count, and I hope that they would remember me as a person who did what I said I was going to do. Um, because I do have a lot of, I meet people, a lot of people every day, and I find out about certain needs and certain things that need to be done, and I take things on bigger than I should sometimes. But once I take something on, I make sure once I tell someone I'm gonna do something, even if it's bigger than I think I can do, I get it done. So yeah, I just hope people remember me like that, and they're inspired by me to do the same, because I do think that a lot of people hesitate to do things because they think they're too hard, or they're too crazy, or oh, that can't be done because people have been come before and haven't been able to do it, or there's too much red tape in that, or whatever. And I'm not that kind of person. I'll untangle the red tape. I'll run through the brick wall and get it done. And I'm not saying I can do everything. I'm not Superwoman or anything, but um, yeah, I hope I inspire people to do more than they think they can.
Well, we're talking to Tina Sernett, who is the founder and organizer of the Sports Shed in Chicago, providing athletic equipment now to more than 60,000 young people who may not have access to sports equipment or other resources to be able to participate in team sports or any sport. And I think, Tina, the legacy you've inherited has been an amazing foundation for the work that you're currently doing and the legacy that you continue to create. And I want to thank you for being a part of this podcast and appreciate the time and the work that you're doing.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been fun to talk about it, and I'd have to say too, another big influence in my life. I went to Willow Creek Community Church for several years, and Bill Hybels, just in his speaking about holy discontent. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Sure have.
He
Yeah.
wrote a book about it, and that that kind of when he was talking about that, and in reading that book is really what drove me to like the lack of resources and the lack of sports equipment becoming my holy discontent. And then when it just catches that fire in your belly, then you're like, I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to sneak that in there.
No, I'm glad you did that, and that's a great phrase, "holy discontent." And I'm familiar with his writing and his ministry and work,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the streams of influence that bring us to points of decision where we're going to do something or not do something.
Yep.
And one of the great influences in my life is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German theologian that was martyred during the Second World War. And he basically suggests that in all of faith, we're constantly confronted with a series of decisions.
Mm.
And this, what is it we do with the information we have, or the inspiration that we've have embraced, or the legacy we've inherited? What do we do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And you have clearly made some decisions and choices that is not only influencing your life, influencing the life of your family, but the thousands of young people in the Chicago area that are benefiting by the work that you've started. And I want to thank you for your work. So,
Thank you.
to find out more information about this conversation and other Legacy podcast episodes, go to servantforge.org. Please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app and consider leaving us a review. We want to hear from you. We want to get your ideas and your opinions. I have a new book that corresponds with the Legacy Project titled The Seeker, Bring Me the Horizon. You can find a copy of it on Amazon or your preferred book distributor. The book corresponds closely with these podcasts. The podcast episode was produced by Matt Erickson and edited by Carissa Erickson. The music is by David Hyde. Please look for a new episode of our podcast coming out soon. Remember, you have inherited a great legacy. You have an opportunity to create a great legacy. Engage your past to build a future.